several folks, and there were obviously questions that came in from multiple registrants, but Lori, Tina, Suzanne all asked a similar question. When we look at the adoption of decentralized trial components across the spectrum, what have companies found to be game-changing, where they're convinced they will not go back? Craig, I think you have some familiarity with no going back. Why don't you start us off with that one?
First off, I want to give credit to that question, because the question asks this phrase about decentralized trial components and decentralized research tools. I think that is absolutely the right way to think about this topic. And, there are a lot of folks that I think get lost with the language that we use when we talk about decentralized trials, that it feels like something vastly different, radically disruptive to our work. But as these folks are asking with this question, when we think about these, we can really think about it as different modules and tools. And the opportunity is, how do we bring them to life in the right and the appropriate studies? And in that toolkit are a lot of tools that we've been using for years, like electronic diaries, ECOA, tools that we've been using more and more in recent years, like electronic informed consent, and some tools that were available to us that maybe only now we're starting to see broader adoption, like video and telemedicine or remote monitoring, or others that are less technology and more about process, like dispatching visiting nurses or using local labs and local imaging centers. And so to me, those are just some of these decentralized research methods, some of which aren't radically new and foreign to us. So in 2020, Ed, to your question, with the pandemic, certainly the familiar ones got more boost. ECOA, electronic informed consent, but I think everything moved a little bit to the right this year. Perhaps video and telemedicine and remote monitoring were a little further out in terms of adoption, but everything took this shift together to the right. Not hard that every study is using every tool, because that shouldn't be our goal, but everything moving with an increased rate of adoption.
And Michelle, I feel like folks like you have been on the front lines of this adoption for about the last 9 months or so. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really agree with Craig's perspective that, a lot of the tools we've deployed are deployed in a modular fashion, so that, we really are meeting the protocols kind of where they are from the standpoint of what's best in this given clinical trial. And so I think, when we think about decentralized, I wouldn't say that always means, we're going to be doing a chemo infusion in someone's living room. It's really about, how do we improve access? How do we improve engagement? How do we improve efficiency? And then how do we improve data quality? And, I think it's really through a modular approach, including wearables and telemedicine, and additionally, digital tools that are really specific for therapeutic areas, that we can, deploy these in a meaningful way and, take decentralized to something that's even more therapeutic area focused, and move it forward from, a broad use of specific technologies.
And Debbie, I'll give you a shot at this one too, from the sponsor side of the house. Do you have some thoughts on that also?
I do. I think that for Otsuka, at least, we've been using eConsent for the last almost 8 years. We've been using eSource. We've been using some telehealth capabilities, most recently pre-COVID. I think what COVID has done for us is it's reminded us that the value of those tools and solutions are probably more so than we even imagined. I mean, in COVID, those tools have actually served us very, very well. So to the question of what do we not go back from, I don't think we will ever go back to the paper process. But I do think we need to be thinking in the future about, especially for certain therapeutic areas such as CNS, neurology, et cetera, biomarkers. How are we going to leverage biomarkers in the future in order to be able to decentralize the trial process, whether it be, or democratize actually the clinical trial process, whether it be allowing patients to be seen at home and use those tools to collect passive data that will help inform our trials, et cetera. So I think going back to paper is way out of even our thinking at this point. How do we leverage the tools that we have in the toolbox? How do we leverage new tools in the toolbox moving forward? I think that's where we need to be thinking about, because all of these tools have been available to us for years. We just chose not to use them.
And I'm going to stick with you for the next one as well. Claire asks, is there an appetite for increased use of wearables and sensors as more trials are conducted remotely? Again, your company is one that I think has been involved with that even prior to COVID, but are you seeing that as well?
Absolutely. I think that I think it goes even beyond wearables. Again, it goes back to that biomarkers. It also goes to digital therapeutics, digital medicine. I think we are going to be looking at medicine differently, so we have to be looking at trials differently. And the opportunity there is actually, I think, endless for us. I think, again, it's a matter of leapfrogging now. We spend all our time trying to move forward the operational aspects, but don't focus on how do we actually move the scientific aspects as well. We'll lose an opportunity, quite honestly.
And Jeff, let me pull you in there as well, because I know you have a good view of the patient perspective. When it comes to wearables and sensors, what are you seeing now with the remote conduct of trials?
Definitely an increased appetite for use of wearables. And, it's something that I've been a huge advocate of for years, because, the one thing that wearables do that is, I think, truly game-changing is you can get real-time monitoring of safety signals. So that's way better than assessing safety of a patient on a monthly or biweekly visit, getting it real-time. I think we're seeing more advances in technology, more medical-grade technology is being available. And we're also seeing, really unique technology in addition to wearables, things like, the Emerald sensor coming out of MIT, where you can basically, assess movement within a physical space. So I think we need to, continue to build on the progress. And I think that one of the key challenges that is being dealt with, that needs to continue to be dealt with, is how do we better integrate the diverse data sources to get, one picture of what's going on with the patient.